It's me again. It's me again. Hello, hello, hello. Ross here again with another awesome, fantastic review of James Bond. My cat is losing his mind behind the camera, but we're not going to worry about that. Are we, Vader? We're not going to worry about that. We're going to continue this review. We're actually going to do this review possibly in two parts. The reason is when I spoke in my previous review, which went up, was Thunderball, I mentioned how the next film, this one here, You Only Live Twice, holds a special place in my heart. So this movie holds a special place in my heart, and the reason is it dates back all the way to when I started working. In the early days of my working life, I was working at a video store, and it was a dream job. It was fantastic. I used to work at the video store after school. I used to go there at night and work at the video store. And the thing that I really loved about the video store was that you would just, I could spend hours whilst working just looking at videotapes, like the covers, the rear of the actual boxes and everything, and it was fantastic. It was an absolute dream job. It was great. Used to interact with people, give recommendations, and it was where I really not discovered my love of James Bond, but it was in that period of time where my love of James Bond was really pushed to the forefront. Now, to go even further back, GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64 was the major thing that really pushed my love of James Bond. I used to play that game hours and hours and hours playing that game, and it was fantastic. But the thing, and the cat's run out. But the thing that really pushed my love of James Bond was actually this film, You Only Live Twice. Now, behind me in some of my reviews, you've seen some of the VHS collection that I've got here of the James Bond movies. What you may not know is that You Only Live Twice, this VHS tape, was the first James Bond movie that I purchased. It was the first James Bond movie I purchased. I purchased this one and another film, which I'll talk about that when I actually get to that review. But You Only Live Twice purchased. This is the original tape that I purchased. This is the original VHS. And I look at this case now and I'm still blown away by it. Now, a little bit of backstory, as I said. I promised backstory. You're going to get backstory. Let me just put that away carefully. What happened is, I used to work at nights after school. I've already mentioned that. So I used to go to school, finish school, go home, get changed. My mum or my dad would drive me to work, and I would work and do like a 5.5 hour shift. At about 10:30 at night, I would leave, get home maybe 15 minutes later, and then have to do my homework. The only problem is, you're working, the last thing you want to do is homework. So I would just jump in bed, pass out, and I was done. That was it. I was done. On this one particular night, they started releasing the James Bond movies on VHS again, my limited collection. And I went to the local shopping centre, which the video store that I worked at was in, and I went to Kmart in Australia. And they had a whole wall of VHS tapes, a whole wall. And they had some of the James Bond movies. From memory at the time, they were only releasing some movies at a time, like in stages. One of them that I purchased was You Only Live Twice. And I saw it and I picked it up. I had never seen the film before, but I'm like, I'm gonna buy it. I want to jump into the James Bond movies. At this point, I loved GoldenEye. Tomorrow Never Dies had come out, and it was leading up to the release of Twine, which was The World Is Not Enough. So this is in 1999, and I am like dying to watch any Bond movie at this point. And I had them at the video store and everything like that, but I wanted to own them for myself. Renting them was one thing, I wanted to own them. So I picked up that movie and another James Bond, as I said, I'll get to that down the line. And I got home that night, I jumped into bed, and when I woke up the next morning to get ready for school, which was like a 2-minute walk from the house, my mum had to take my 2 older brothers to a different school, whereas I was going to this school that was closer. So my mum left and then she went to work. And I was at the house on my own, and I'm like, I'm just going to smash out all my homework before school, and then I'm going to go to school, like on time. School started at 9 o'clock. I'm like, I'll do my homework in an hour and then I'll go. As I was doing my homework in the living room, I'm like, I've got that James Bond movie. I'm just going to put it on. I'll watch like half an hour while I'm doing my homework. So I put on You Only Live Twice. I finished my homework, no joke, within 20 minutes. And then I did not leave the house until that entire movie was finished. I think it was about 10:30 in the AM. And I'm in the living room. That movie's finished and I've put on the second of the Bond films that I purchased. And my dad rocks up. My dad unlocks the door. I've quickly pulled the VHS tape out, thrown it in my room, grabbed all my stuff, and I was acting as if I was just about to leave the house to go to school. And my dad enters the house and he's like, "What are you doing at home?" And I said, "Oh, I was doing my homework." And he's like, "I just got a call from the school telling me that you haven't shown up. I've come home and what are you doing?" And I said, "Yeah, I've just finished my homework, Dad. Sorry, I worked last night, this and that." And I went to school. And my dad watched me walk to school and I went in and no issue there. I could not get that James Bond movie out of my head. I was obsessed. This movie has such a hold over me. I don't know what it is. There is something about this movie that has captivated me for over 20 years. It's probably about 26 years now when I first saw You Only Live Twice. Now, this is my nerd shelf, and down the bottom, which you can't see, I actually have a vinyl record, I should say, not record, a vinyl record of the soundtrack. Never opened it. I also have, I believe I have the CD. I'm not 100% sure there. I know I own it digitally. But this movie here is so amazing. Let me just get the story out of the way, okay? The movie begins with one of the best openings up to this point. I know you've got the Thunderball opening with the jetpack and the fight and the car using some gadgets. But this movie here is just so simple. It starts off with a space shuttle. There's a space shuttle in space. You've got some astronauts, one inside, one on the outside with an attachment like an umbilical cord connecting him to this thing. And all of a sudden they're just in there and then Mission Control says, "Hey, we've got something on our scope. There is something approaching your shuttle." And everyone's like, "Well, I don't know what it is." Then all of a sudden you see this bullet-like thing just opening up like that and just slowly close around the shuttle and clamp shut around this like American shuttle. And as it closes shut like that, it snaps the cord and you just see this astronaut just fly away. And you don't know what's going on. And the Americans are like, "What the hell is happening? Our astronauts have completely lost all radio communication with him. One of our astronauts, we don't even know what's happening to him. We have got no idea." And they suspect that the Russians are actually doing this, and the Russians suspect that the Americans are doing this to the Russians, because it's happened to both the Americans and the Russians at this point. So each side is suspecting that each side is doing it, and there's this building of tension, which, again, I love it. We're the Cold War period. We're in I think this is 1967, 2 years since Thunderball. And you've got this palpable feeling, this tension is just rising throughout this movie. And then what you find out is that the British actually get together, all the I guess United Nations all get together, and they're like, we don't actually think this is coming down in Russia. We don't think the Russians are involved in this. We actually think it's coming down in Japan. This rocket seems to be grabbing these things and then lowering down in Japan. That's what we believe. So we're going to send James Bond to go and find out what's going on. And the first time you see Bond, he's in bed, he's in Hong Kong, and he's there with I guess a Chinese woman. And all of a sudden she hits a button, the bed flies up against the wall like that. These people run in and just shoot the whole bed. And then when the bed comes down, the police come in there and they're like, he's dead. Bang, cut. We now go to the title sequence of the movie, which is the theme song, and it is from Russia. Sorry, not From Russia with Love. I've got that on my mind. It is You Only Live Twice by Nancy Sinatra. And this song is just, I love it. It is one of my all-time favorites. I say this all the time to my wife. I love this song. And you probably know it, if you haven't seen the film, you might know it from Robbie Williams, covered it with his song, is it Millennium? I'm not 100% sure, but I will put it on the screen somewhere, so if I'm wrong, which I probably am, it'll pop up on the screen. And if you haven't heard his song, he actually uses the which is played throughout this song. He uses that riff in his song, and the music video kind of is inspired by James Bond. It is brilliant. This whole movie, from beginning to end, to me, is almost a perfect Bond movie. You've got the location. And very interestingly, this, at this point, is the only Bond film to never, ever, ever go to London. James Bond is never in London. He begins the movie in Hong Kong, where he's killed. Then he is on a submarine when he's recovered from the ocean, because they give him a burial at sea, because he's a naval commander, or was a naval commander before becoming an MI6 agent. So burial at sea. He's then, it was all a fake setup just to make all enemy agents believe that Bond was actually out of the picture. Like, he's dead, British Secret Service agent dead. He's gone. And then M tasks him with going to Japan, speaking with the contact that we've got there, figuring out who's actually doing this, which, as the movie goes on, we find out is Spectre. After 4 movies of teasing of the character, we finally get to see Blofeld in all his glory, played by Donald Pleasance, which to me is an utter letdown. Why is an utter letdown, do you ask? Previous movies, Blofeld has been a faceless character, almost like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. He will just sit in his chair, play with his kitten. That's me stroking the kitten. And he will be this character that people fear. He's a character with a booming voice. He is an actual character that you dread Bond actually meeting him, because you're like, I think Bond's going to meet his match with this guy. He seems really deadly. He's in charge of this huge organisation, which is Spectre. He's brought the world to their knees on countless occasions, but Bond eventually saves the day. And then in this film, he's revealed, and he's this tiny framed little person who just screams little man syndrome. He looks frail, he looks weak, he's not a booming figure, he looks pathetic, he looks shocking. He's not the Blofeld leading up to this that I picture when I think of Blofeld. The Blofeld I think of from the previous movies is in the next film, on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Every time I see this Blofeld, I just think Dr. Evil. It's as simple as that. I don't like this interpretation of Blofeld, and I know that's a bit controversial with some people. I don't like this Blofeld. I like this movie. I love this movie. I don't like this Blofeld. it's a bit of a letdown. Now, yeah, he's got himself a henchman named Hans who is pathetic. Why is he here? He's a figure that stands there and he doesn't do anything. He fights Bond at the end of the movie, and I don't understand why that character is in this movie. He doesn't seem to do anything. There's another character in this movie called Helga Brandt, who is whoa, stunning. But again, she doesn't do much. She is a Spectre agent. Then you've got another Spectre agent called Mr. Osato, and Bond is going to meet with Mr. Osato, pretending to be someone that deals in chemicals. And there's a fun sequence where Bond comes in and they introduce each other and they're all sitting there, and Helga Brandt comes up and they make a joke about Bond smoking and his lungs being, smoking gonna kill you kind of thing. And Helga Brandt comes up and just says, Mr. Osato believes in a healthy chest. And Bond just looks up at her and he gives his little smirk and his cheeky little remark, and it's typical Bond. I love it. Now, Mr. Osato is in this movie and he is kind of another potential, could have been a great character, but kind of let down. Helga Brandt, she's deadly. She's another femme fatale. Very similar to Fiona Volpe from, Thunderball, the previous movie. Fiona was 1,000 times better, but Helga Brandt is just... she's beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, she's deadly. She threatens to slice Bond's skin with a surgical knife, pretty much. Then he beds her, and then she has an opportunity again to end him, and then chooses to leave him in a plane that's falling down while she jumps out in a parachute. She's kind of here, but if she wasn't in the movie, nothing would really change, if that makes any sense. Mr. Osato's here. He's a good character. He's but again, he meets his fate by Blofeld just shooting him. It's the same thing that you see in From Russia with Love. And it's played again in this moment here in this film. And I just kind of feel like we're treading the same ground that we've had 2-3 movies ago. Can we try something different? It sounds like I'm really negative about this movie, but I'm not. Let me get into what I really, really, really love about this movie. Aki. I love this woman. She is great. She's a fantastic Bond girl. Why did you kill her? Let her live until the end of the movie. You've got Kissy comes into it. She's pathetic. She does nothing. Bond in this movie turns Japanese. He honestly does turn Japanese. Now, the way I was so abrupt in mentioning that is because that's kind of how it feels in the movie. Bond needs to get closer to this volcano. So because of that, Tiger Tanaka, who is his Japanese contact, says, we need to turn you Japanese.
First, you become a Japanese.
And then they change his hair, change his eyes, make him hunch over a little bit so he looks smaller and more frail, like apparently a Japanese man would be. Then they ship him off to a fishing village where he gets married, and he gets married to Kissy. And we're kind of at the end of the film at that point. He scales the volcano with Kissy, jumps into the volcano, and that's where we have one of the most beautiful sets ever in a movie, Blofeld's volcano base. Now, when you think of James Bond parodies, you think of Dr. Evil, Austin Powers movies. And when you think of the parodies, they always make this big deal about the shadowy organisation, the evil villain, and the base. And this movie here is where it's all from. This movie here really did set the mark on what a spy movie kind of is. I mean, this is really fantasy, and I don't care. Bond's got his time, his end time, which is the next shuttle launch, and he has to prevent it. And when he gets into this volcano base, wow. Wow. I was reading up after I finished watching the movie, again, whilst working out, and I found out that the actual base, the construction of that on sets cost $1 million to build, to construct. Inside, you've got monorails and like a little train system. You have rock walls, massive. You've got a helicopter pad in there, a helipad, which a helicopter could actually land on. You've got rooms, locations, different levels, and all of it is used later in the movie when, like, you have Tiger Tanaka's ninja assassins versus Blofeld's Spectre agents. And the sequence is brilliant. The fights are brilliant. The explosions going off left and right. You've got Bond running around shooting people. You've got Tiger's men coming down from the top of the volcano into the base. It is massive. It is a massive spectacle of a sequence. And this movie here has its downsides, but also so many positives in this movie. And that's why I love this film so much. There's other sequences in this movie that are just phenomenal. There's a part where Bond gets in contact with MI6 and asks for little Nellie to be brought to Japan with her father. And you're kind of like, what the hell is little Nellie? What's going on here? Only to find out that Q is the father and little Nellie is a small little helicopter, which was actually a real vehicle, much like the Thunderball sequence with a jetpack. They actually had a guy fly this little helicopter around areas of Japan, which I'm going to be putting up on screen. And then you had full-size helicopters coming after. And there's a sequence in this movie where Bond is in this small little, I think they call it a gyrocopter, and he's firing off and destroys like 4 Spectre helicopters that are coming after him. And yeah, there's a lot of like miniature explosions and stuff like that, but you can't deny that you get to see some beautiful sequences that up until this point in cinema, you didn't really get to see that often. I mean, this is 1967, and we're 5 movies into the James Bond franchise, and it's just gotten better and better and better and better and better. And like I said, the volcano base, which again, you'll see some of these as I'm talking, cost $1 million to construct. Dr. No, the first Bond film from 1962, cost $1 million to film that movie. That just goes to show what we're dealing with here. That entire movie, a 2-hour movie, $1 million on screen. This volcano base, which is probably on screen for maybe 35 minutes, $1 million. You see it. All of it is up on the screen. There is no hiding where this money has gone. That's why I love this movie. It is everything that I want out of a James Bond movie and more. Unfortunately, Sean Connery made absolutely no hesitation about letting people know that he was getting tired of the James Bond character, of playing James Bond. He wanted to stretch his wings a bit. He wanted to fly. He wanted to try new things. This was his final James Bond movie. And what actually happened was, unfortunately, you can see in the gap between Thunderball and You Only Live Twice, the 2-year gap, you can actually see Sean Connery. I hate saying it because I don't want to talk about negativity, and I don't want to be talking about people's bodies and things like that in a negative way, but unfortunately, Sean Connery did let himself go a fraction. You can see that he looks a little bit fuller in the face. He's not as... He doesn't look as fit as he did in Thunderball, and there are times in this movie where he does feel like he's phoning it in a little bit. But I go all the way back to 26 years ago, 1999, when I watched this film on VHS, and I sat there. I was just over 15 years old, and I was watching this film in absolute awe. This was the first Sean Connery movie that I ever saw. This is the favourite Sean Connery movie I've ever seen, will ever see. I know From Russia with Love is always at the top of my list. This film here surpasses that. I will never, ever not like this movie. I can put You Only Live Twice on whenever I want. Whether Sean Connery looks bored at certain points, I don't care. I go into this movie with such love. There is something about You Only Live Twice for me. I just can't. I'm trying to put it into words. I'm probably 20-something minutes into this review, and I just can't. My emotion, my love for this movie is unparalleled. It is my favourite Sean Connery performance. It is my favourite musical score in any of his movies. John Barry knocks it out of the park. And I actually was having lunch with my wife a couple of months back, and we were watching The Incredibles, and some of the music came up, and I said to my wife, hang on a moment, and I put on the You Only Live Twice soundtrack, and I was playing a bit of the music and then a bit of The Incredibles music, and completely not ripped off, inspired by this film. It is done so much for cinema, so much for everything. This movie here, I love it. I love it. Like I said, I put it at the top of my list. I give this movie a 10 out of 10. I know I've mentioned that I don't like Blofeld. I know I've mentioned that Helga Brandt is wasted. Hans, the henchman, is wasted. Connery looks a little bit bored. But what I haven't said are the locations. The Japan, Tokyo is beautiful. I like seeing Connery. He has Aki as the love interest, as one of the Bond girls in this movie. And I actually love the fact that Bond, he's getting a massage in the movie, and Aki comes into the room and surprises him. And when he turns around and he looks up at her, you actually think, oh, this guy could realistically settle down after this mission. Once Blofeld's taken care of, he could settle down with her and they could get married. And again, I've never read the books, so I don't know what happens. I know Bond gets married and does have a child and things like that. I don't know that. I'm only reviewing the movies. Aki is fantastic. You've got some brilliant... I didn't even mention the fight sequence on the Kobe on the docks. Bond goes there and he runs across the rooftop, and as he's running across the rooftop, all these enemy people are coming after him, and the helicopter filming is just... I'm going to just put a clip in, whether I speak over the top of it or not. I love that moment. And then you've got Bond, or Sean Connery, leaping off to the next level down, and he falls onto these cardboard boxes. I mean, it's the stuntman, but you don't know that because the way they film it, with Bond hiding behind the boxes, and as the stuntman leaps behind the boxes, Connery comes around the side, and he adjusts his tie or his suit like that, and then he walks off. There are tiny little moments in this movie that all the negatives are just gone. They're just gone, and I can't explain it. I've got so much love for this movie. I really do. I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking. I love this movie. Now, what I am going to get into, I'm pulling out my phone because I need my phone for this. What I am going to get out to is all the stats. Now, let's go with the kill count first. Bond's kill count, 21. He destroys a whole bunch of people in the volcano, like he's just bang, 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 killing people left, right, and centre. Well done. The locations, as I've mentioned also, only Hong Kong and Tokyo. There's only 2 locations in this whole film. And there's nothing wrong with that. They look beautiful. I mean, Hong Kong's only a tiny little sequence, but when we go to Japan, Tokyo, the rest of the film is there. Ladies bedded, we have 2. Aki, who I love, and Helga Brandt, who... gorgeous, but bleh. Now for the main stuff. My calories burned. We have my active calories during this film. Now, I watched it over 4 viewings. I watched this movie. My active calories burned were 886. Now, that is less than some other films, but that's because I'm incorporating weights into this now. So I'm kind of jumping off the exercise bike, watching the movie still, doing the weights, pausing for a little bit, then doing more weights, things like that. So 886, my total calories was 1168. And then the total amount of time spent watching this movie was 2 hours and 3 seconds. Yes, and I watched it, as I said, in 4 parts, 21 minutes, 18 minutes, 38 minutes, and like 42 minutes. So I did watch it in all those different sequences, and I'm having to do that because my days are getting busier, so I'm watching it at night or on the weekend or something like that. Wow. Now, I did weigh myself also. I'm filming this on a Wednesday, so I do have my next weigh-in. I'm just bringing up the app. My weight now is a total of 4.9 kilos down since I started this. So we're 5 movies in, 4.9 kilos down. And I'm really happy because I weighed myself just a moment ago and I know that I'm less than that, but I'm not going to include that because it's not my official weigh-in day. So I'm going to wait until my official weigh-in day and then weigh myself again. So in my next review, which will be on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is, I'm not saying anything just yet, on that review you'll find out what my weight is at that point. Let me just finalise this review by saying how absolutely astonished I am every time I watch this movie again. It is one of the most viewed Bond movies of mine. I can throw the soundtrack on and listen to it when I'm driving. I can be doing housework, soundtrack on. I can be driving my car, movie playing. I can be at work, headphones in, movie on. Anytime, anywhere, any place, this movie here is the easiest Bond film for me to just put in and watch. And it all goes back to 26 years ago when I first picked up that VHS back there. And since then, I've been in love with this film. So this is a very biased review, and I really don't care. It's my review. It's mine. Now, in regards to my next review, as I mentioned, this is Sean Connery, This is Sean Connery's final Bond film at this time. And the next one is actually starring George Lazenby, who is an Australian. We will talk about that movie in the next review, but I just want everyone to know that I do appreciate everyone, the comments I'm getting, the likes. If you're sharing it, thank you. The views I'm getting, I appreciate it. I really do. And I just want to thank everyone for watching. I put a lot of hard work into this. Not only am I working out, so I'm sweating like a pig right now too because of the heat, but not only do I work out while watching these movies, but I record these, I edit, I put all the clips in, I upload, I do everything, I respond to all my comments, and I just want you to know that it does mean a lot when I get just a like, or one like even, or one comment. All those little things mean something to me. They really do. They might not mean anything to you guys, but to me they mean so much, because it does go to show that even with all the effort that I put in, the hours it takes for me to get these reviews up, it means a lot to me. So thank you very much for watching. The next thing I want to say is mental health, very important for everybody, for me especially. I've been going through a lot of tough things these last couple of months. And I'm not bringing this down at all, but I've been going through some stuff, still going through some stuff. But I just want you to know that I really do appreciate everybody. Yeah, I really do appreciate everybody there. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please let me know in the comment below if you've seen You Only Live Twice, what you think of it. Do you have a favourite Bond film, a favourite Bond actor, a favourite Bond soundtrack, a favourite Bond title song? Anything at all. Let's speak James Bond down below. Let's speak about health down below. And I will see you in another week with on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So thank you very much for watching, and I really do appreciate you all, every person out there. Thank you very much, and look after yourself.